Namaste and good evening. We'll start our class with the prayers. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ओम शांति शांति शांति. Now let us chant Mahamrityunjaya mantra 3 times to pray for those who are in suffering. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकम् इव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकम् इव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकम् इव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Welcome everyone. Till the last class, we had finished Ayodhya Kanda. So if you remember, there are 7 chapters in Manas, and these are the number of verses. So you can see the Balakanda, where the childhood and up to his marriage is described, of Lord Rama. That is the largest one, 361 verses. And Ayodhya Kanda, the one which describes Rama's exile, Bharata's going to get him, and finally Bharata returning with his sandals. So all those things are described in Ayodhya Kanda. That is the second largest. Then now we are starting today Aranya Kanda. Aranya means forest. So the things which are the Lord's play, which are taking place in the forest, that Aranya Kanda. So that is relatively small, but the story takes some very interesting turns here. So even though the chapter itself is small, but it may take quite some time to cover them, because there are so many teachings and also the twists and turns of the story. So we'll start with the class 16, Aranya Kanda. So Tulsidas ji starts it with this verse: Oma Ram Gun Gur Pandit Muni Pavahi Birati Pavahi Moha Bimud Je Hari Bimukh Na Dharma Rati Purnar Bharat Preeti Mein Gai Mate Anurup Anup Suhai Ab Prabhu Charit Sunahu Ati Pavan Karat Jeban Sur Nar Muni Bhavan. So Lord Shiva, as you know, he is narrating this Manas to Parvati, and he is telling, O Parvati, Sri Rama's virtues, his plays, the way he behaves, all these stories, when a person of wisdom, when a person who is interested in the devotion to the Lord, when they hear it, they develop dispassion. But when the people who are hostile to Lord God, they do not want to follow the ways of dharma, when they hear the stories, they feel confused. They will always be raising these questions that how can God be formless and with form at the same time? How is it possible? And all those kind of things. So he's saying that so far I have portrayed to the best of my ability the Bharata's devotion to Lord Rama. Now you further listen to play of the Lord, which is very holy and one who brings the delight to the gods, men and sages. So Lord is still in Chitrakuta. People have returned. Bharata and other people who came from Ayodhya and also from Mithila, they have returned. And Lord Rama is staying there with Lakshmana and Sita. So once the king of heaven, his name is Indra, he has a son, his name is Jayanta. When he saw the Lord, he also felt a little bit confused that how is it possible that he is the Lord? He is staying in the forest, looks like an ordinary prince, just with his wife and his younger brother. And I mean, how can Lord be doing all these kind of things, what he is doing? So he wanted to test. He wanted to test the strength and power of the Lord. So he was such a foolish fellow, wanted to test the Lord himself. So what he did, he took the form of a crow and he hurt Sita in her feet. And then blood started flowing. And then he flew away. Blood started flowing. Lord Rama came to know of it. He felt a little upset and he also wanted to teach the lesson to this foolish fellow, Jayanta. So what he did, he just picks up something on his arrow, some arrow on his bow and leaves after him. Now that arrow is following this crow, Jayanta. And Jayanta is seeing this arrow coming after him. Now he is afraid for his life. And he is flying very fast to different places. So first he goes to his father's place. He still sees the arrow following him in the heavens. When his father heard the story, he refused to give him the shelter. He said, "Foolish fellow, you want to test the strength of the Lord, and now you have come here to seek the refuge in me. Just go away, I can't help you." He also goes to different other planes, and every time he is finding that arrow following him. He is completely out of his wits, doesn't know what to do. In this state, when he is flying here and there, Sage Narada saw him. Sage Narada is considered the one who is very compassionate to the people. And he talked to him and he gave him the advice that go back to Lord Rama, seek his refuge. That is the only course of action for you. So Jayanta understood. He went to Lord Rama, back to Lord Rama, and he fell down at his feet. And he said, "Please save me. I did not know who you were. So please save me. I'm taking refuge in you. So anybody who takes refuge in the Lord, Lord never refuses, of course. Everybody can ever take the refuge in the Lord. So because that arrow which had been left, even though it was left for, it would have killed Jayanta, what Lord Rama did, he just hurt his left eye so that the purpose of the arrow is served to teach him a lesson, and left him. So poet is saying here, Tulsidas ji, कीन मोह बस द्रोह यद्यपि तेहि कर बध उचित प्रभु छाड़े करि छोह को कृपाल रघुबीर सम. Even out of folly he had committed this offense against the Lord, and the right thing was indeed that he deserved the death because he hurt Sita for no reason. But Lord, out of the compassion, he left him. Then when Lord saw that sometimes many people are coming to him, because everybody knew from Ayodhya and from other places that Lord Rama is staying in Chitrakoot at this place, so they would come there from time to time. And when he saw, he did not like this idea that so many people are coming to him, and he wanted to go to another place so that other people do not know about his whereabouts and they will not come to him. So he took the leave from all the hermits nearby, and then he decided to move from that place. Then while he is walking towards the south, he found an ashram of a sage Atri. Sage Atri is considered a great sage, and he was rejoiced at the news when he found that Lord Rama is coming to his ashram. Sage Atri, he sings this hymn to Lord Rama. This is a very famous hymn in Manas for Lord Rama. So I'll just sing a little bit, not the whole one. It's a little bit long one, and you can refer to it in Manas. Namami bhaktavatsalam कृपालुशीलकोमलं भजामि ते पदाम्बुजम् अकामिनां स्वधामदं निकामश्यामसुन्दरं भवाम्बुनाथमन्दरं प्रफुल्लकञ्जलोचनं मदादिदोषमोचनं प्रलम्बबाहुविक्रमं प्रभो प्रमेय वैभवं निषङ्गचापसायकं धरं त्रिलोकनायकं. So like that, it's a very beautiful, many people sing this hymn to Lord Rama. So the meaning, of course, is always very beautiful here. It's not that there is so much meaning, it's just the feelings of the devotee. So he is saying here that you are so fond of your devotees, you are compassionate, you are gentle of disposition. I adore your lotus feet. Then Sita went to Anusuya. So Sage Atri has a wife. Her name is Anusuya. So he is a householder sage, householder saint, householder yogi. Anusuya talks to Sita, and she talks to Sita about Pativrata Dharma. So this is something I want to tell you a little bit. This is a culture from Vedic religion, Vedic period, Vedic culture, Vedic values. So one of these values was that a woman, a wife, if she worships her husband as Lord himself, then she doesn't have to do any other meditation or austerity or any other spiritual practice. That practice alone is enough for her to attain the liberation. This may sound very strange today when we are talking of the rights, women's rights, equality, and all these things. Then how does it make sense that a woman should be worshipping her husband as the Lord himself and submitting herself completely to his will? So, in Vedic culture, the whole focus for the human beings is that how do they attain the liberation? That is the goal of human life. And that was the focus. So all the social systems, they were created that what would help the person to attain that goal. They were not created from the perspective of social equality. So sometimes people may find it confusing that how this kind of practice was there. But because this kind of practice was there, it was also possible for this practice to be there because men were also very considerate at that time. They would be generally engaged in their spiritual practices. So just the husband's spiritual practices, and he has to do a lot of things. For wife, the only spiritual practice becomes devotion to her husband. So in today's world, of course, that practice may sound very strange, and it probably is. I just wanted to give you a glimpse of that, what it meant. And this kind of, because we are talking of the time of Lord Rama, and this was still considered very great thing, this Pativrata Dharma, considering the husband himself as the Lord. So this reference may come from time to time. I just wanted to tell you what is the logic behind it, so to speak. So Anusuya tells Sita, and this is one of the very famous, oft-quoted verse from Manas. Dheeraj dharma mitra arunari, apat kal parakhyai chari. So many of these things have become, like in the common parlance, people just refer to as a good saying from Manas. So this has become like that. So it says that patience, your dharma, like whatever your values. So if somebody says that I will speak the truth, that is his dharma, that is his value. The friend and the wife. For the wife, you can say husband. They are tested in the times of distress. So a person may be very patient, but you truly know whether he or she is patient or not when really the difficult times come. Similarly, dharma, my value systems. How well can I hold on to the value systems? My friends, whether they are friends of good weather or bad weather, and wife or husband, you can say, like your partner. So they are tested in the times of distress. So regarding Pativrata, that the concept I just told you, whereby wife perceiving or considering her husband as the Lord, Anusuya talks about that value system. That is also a value system. If some woman wants to take that as a part of her spiritual practice, then that becomes her dharma, that becomes her spiritual practice. And because that was a common theme in those days, Anusuya is talking to Sita about she says there are 4 types of women who are pativrata, who are considered pativrata. So she says the first one, the best one. How the best one? She has so much self-control. Her mind is so much under control that even in the dream, she does not think of another man. The second level of pativrata will see the others' husbands as either as the brother or father or the son, depending upon the age. So she will perceive the husbands of other women in that fashion. And the third level, she is saying, are the ones who just out of considering that their duty, that I want to follow this dharma, this is my dharma, so that's why I should not transgress. So that she is saying they are of the third level. And the fourth level, she is saying that she is restrained only by the fear or the want of opportunity. So that is the fourth kind. So she is also telling that if a woman follows this as her dharma, as the Pativrata dharma, without any other effort, without any other consideration for spiritual practices, just by serving her husband, she can attain the highest state. So, and then Anasuya tells Sita that Sita, you are the best among the Pativrata dharma, those who follow this dharma. I did not tell you to teach you, but just to sort of teach others by making you as the means. You are so great that taking your name, women will be able to follow this dharma. Then from Atri's ashram, Lord moved forward. He found a demon called Viradha. He killed that demon. The demon was actually a divine being earlier. Because of some curse, he had been cursed into a demonic form. So Lord Rama released him from his demonic form and he attained his divine form and he went to his abode. Then he goes and meets another saint called Sharbhanga. Sharbhanga, that is the name of the saint. And this saint was so devoted to Lord Rama that already there was a call for him from the abode of Brahma that he could go there. He was already about to, at the end of his life. But when he heard that Sri Rama has come to the forest and he might have the opportunity to see him, he decided to hold on to his life and wait for the opportunity to see Lord Rama. When Lord Rama came, he was so overwhelmed with emotion and devotion. And he asked the boon that I want the boon of devotion to you, extreme devotion to you. I do not want to merge in you. I do not want to attain the moksha, the realization. I just want to have the devotion to you. And Lord Rama gives him that boon. And just then, because the moment Lord Rama leaves, he attains, he gives up his body in the fire of yoga. So there are some yogic practices those who great advanced yogis can do. They don't need the external fire. The inner fire they can generate from yoga and give up their body. And because he did not ask for moksha, he asked for devotion. He did not attain oneness with the Lord. And then Lord moves further forward in the forest. There are a lot of saints and sages with him. And then he sees in a distance is some sort of a white mound, a huge mound. And he asks some of those saints and sages who are living in that area, what is this? What is this white mound, such a huge mound? Looks like a small mountain. What is this? And those sages and saints, they said, oh Lord, you know everything. Yet you are asking like as if you do not know. All these, what you are seeing is the white mound. These are the bones of all the saints and sages who demons have eaten. So there were man-eating demons in that area. And they would just kill and eat the many saints and sages who were meditating in that forest. When Lord Rama heard that, he had tears in his eyes. And he made a vow, he made a promise to those sages and saints that I promise that I will make this earth free from demons. I will kill everybody. I'll kill all the demons. And in those times, all the demons had accepted their kingship to Ravana. So Ravana was basically the head and they were all his fellows. And then he went to different ashramas and consoled them that do not be afraid, do not be worried. I'm here and I'll take care of it. Then Lord moves further down and he is coming near the ashram of sage Agastya. Agastya is a very famous sage in Vedic literature. He is considered, of course, a realized master, but also with a lot of powers. So now Lord Rama is nearing his ashram, and his ashram is a famous place. So first he meets his disciple. His name is Sutikshana. He is also a sage. He is living a little bit separate from his guru's ashram. He had his own small cottage, so to speak. So first he meets Sutikshana, and the way Sutikshana is, he is so much devoted to Lord Rama that he does not think of any other God in any other form, even in the dream. Totally, he is devoted to Lord Rama. And he becomes extremely happy. He goes into a samadhi when just thinking of Lord Rama that he is coming, I'll see him. And when Lord Rama comes, he finds the sage sitting in samadhi, so he withdraws that vision from his heart. So sage automatically gets up and then he sees Lord Rama directly in his front. And he was extremely happy. He asks for a boon, and this is also one of the famous verse here. As abhiman jai jan bhore, main sevak raghupati pati more. This feeling that I am the servant and Lord Rama is my Lord, this is a sort of an ego, because there is a statement that I am a servant and Lord Rama is my Lord. This is also a form of ego because there is a separation. But he says, I want to keep this ego. I want to keep this feeling always. Let this feeling never disappear from my heart. So Lord Rama gives him that boon, and then he says, okay, I'll accompany you to Lord Sage Agastya's ashram, the place where Lord Rama was heading towards. So he starts going, and Sage Agastya, when he heard that Lord Rama is coming, he was obviously very happy. And so he came out. He worships the Lord. Lord also bows down to him because he is a great saint. And then he asks for a boon. Sage Agastya asks for a boon. I have just taken some of the very famous verses from Manas, which those people who are familiar with Manas, they would have heard these things. यह बर मागं कृपा निकेता, बसहु हृदय श्री अनुज समेता. O Lord, I ask this boon of you, that you dwell in my heart with Sita and Lakshmana, just like you are right now. I should always have this image of yours in my heart. So Lord gave him that boon. And then Lord asks him that, O sage, you know everything. You know the reason why I came to this earth. So please suggest a suitable place for me to go and make my hut, cottage, or ashram. So he smiles. He says, you just want to glorify me. That's why you're asking me. Otherwise, what is there for you not to know? And then he says, anyway, I'll tell you. So there is this place called Panchvati. So this place called Panchvati. Panchvati means literally 5 trees. So there are 5 holy trees, and it is said that the area which is between those trees, like you plant 5 trees sort of in the periphery, and there could be a huge area in the midst of it, and that area, that place is considered very holy for any spiritual practices and meditations. So because this place apparently was known for that, the place itself became famous as Panchvati. So in many ashrams in India, people create their own these 5 trees so that there's a place for meditation in between. That the forest is called Dandakaranya, Dandaka forest. There was a king in the olden times. On his name, this forest name became Dandaka forest. And he says, you please go there. Your mission of killing the demons will find the success there. All the sages and saints in that area who constantly live in the fear of demons, they will also feel fearless when you go there. They will also feel comfortable. So please go there. So Lord Rama goes to that place called Panchvati. And there he met Jatayu. Jatayu is a vulture, or king of vultures. It's a huge vulture. And Lord Rama, he is the friend of Dasharatha, the Rama's father. So Lord Rama met Jatayu, developing sort of friendship with him. And he created a thatched hut of leaves. So in that place, he started living with Sita and Lakshman. Once, while he is staying in this place, Panchvati, Lakshmana approaches Lord Ram and he says that I want to ask you something, not as my elder brother, but as Guru or as the Lord himself. You please tell me. So he asks here, मोहि समुझाई कहु सोई देवा, सब तज करो चरण रज सेवा, कहु ज्ञान विराग रुमाया, कहु सो भगति करहु जेहि दाया, ईश्वर जीव भेद प्रभु सकल कहो समुझाय, जाते होई चरण रति शोक मोह भ्रम जाय. So he says, you please tell me, what is knowledge, what is dispassion or detachment, and what is this Maya? Also tell me about the devotion, that what is this devotion? And I also want to know what is the difference between God and Jiva, Ishvara and Jiva, the individual soul and the God, super soul, some people translate as. So what is the difference in these two entities? So please tell me everything so that I may have, or anybody who hears it may attain the devotion to your lotus feet and also may become free from sorrow and delusion. So this discourse of Lord Rama to Lakshmana is a short one and it's very important. You see, Lakshmana asked practically all the questions which arise in the mind of a seeker. And Lord Rama explains them in short. So he says, I'm going to tell all these things in short because there is no end to keep on explaining this thing. So he starts like this. भगत की साधन कहूँ बखानी, सुगम पंथ मोहि पावहि प्राणी, प्रथम ही विप्र चरण अति प्रीति, निज निज कर्म निरत श्रुति रीति, यही कर फल पुण्य विषय विरागा, तब मम धर्म उपज अनुरागा, श्रवणादिक नव भक्ति दृढ़ाहि, मम लीला रति अति मन माहि, संत चरण पंकज अति प्रेमा, मन क्रम बचन भजन दृढ़ नेमा, गुरु पितु मातु बंधु पति देवा, सब मोहि कह जाने दृढ़ सेवा, मम गुण गावत पुलक शरीरा, गद गद गिरा नयन बह नीरा, काम आदि मद दंभ न जाके, तात निरंतर बस में ताके, वचन कर्म मन मोरि गति, भजन करहि निष्काम, तिनके हृदय कमल महु करहु सदा विश्राम. So he says, I'll tell you first about how to acquire devotion, how to attain the devotion, because Lakshmana asked about the devotion. And he says it is a very easy way to attain me. So first he says a person should have the devotion to the feet of great people, the holy people. And secondly, he should remain engaged in his own duty as per the scriptures, not as per whatever one feels like. Whatever the scriptures or the saints or the master suggests, he should be engaged in those duties. When he proceeds like this for some time, he automatically develops detachment from the sense objects. Sense objects have a lot of pull on us because our perception is that we attain the pleasure, we attain the happiness through enjoying the sense objects. So he says if somebody does like that, they automatically develop the detachment from the sense objects. Then he automatically attains the love for me, that is the devotion. And he says that there are 9 types of devotion described in Bhagavatam, and he says he automatically develops the interest in those things. Mind finds those things much more agreeable, much more joy-giving than any of the sense objects. And then he says one should be devoted to the saints and other devotees. Also consider the guru, father and mother as my own manifestation and then doing their seva, doing the service to them. And he says that then that person, whenever he hears my glories, my stories, or he himself sings, he becomes so overcome by devotion that he has the tears flows from his eyes. And then he does not, he is free from the lust and pride and hypocrisy and other evil qualities. Such a person, as if I am under his control. So instead of he depending upon me, Lord says that I start then depending upon the devotee, such a devotee. I become under his control. So one who only has the Lord as his refuge, he in their hearts I always dwell. So in that way, there are other teachings also. He says, whereby he answers all the questions. So one thing he says, Maya. What is Maya? So Maya, he says, just this feeling of I and mine, and you and yours. This feeling is Maya. So the separation that I am other and this is mine, that feeling is Maya. And this Maya, he says, because everybody is under this illusion, under this spell, the Maya controls the whole world. With this, giving one this idea that I and mine, you and yours. Meoru more torte Maya. That's how Lord explains. Then the story further continues. Ravana, he had a sister called Surpanakha. Literally a woman having nails as big as a winnowing fan. So she may be having a big nails because she was a demon. So generally they are portrayed as very ugly looking, having a long teeth, ferocious looking people, and big teeth, big nails, like that. So Ravana had a sister. Ravana, if you remember, he was the king of demons living in Lanka. He had this sister, Shurpanakha. She was quite cruel. Poetry is describing her as like a serpent. So she is roaming around in different places. She eats people. She troubles them. So once when she is roaming around, she went to this place called Panchvati. And when she sees Rama and Lakshmana, so beautiful, so handsome, she was smitten with pangs of love and lust, seeing those two, Rama and Lakshmana. So these demons, they had some power to transform themselves into any form. So she transforms herself into a beautiful human being, beautiful lady, beautiful young lady she transforms herself into. And then she approaches Lord Rama and Lakshmana. So first she approaches Rama and says that I have gone to the whole world, different places I have visited, different people I have seen. But so far my heart has not settled on anyone. But looking at you, it seems like that we can be a good pair. So in a this kind of shameless manner, she is proposing to Rama. Rama just smiles within and he indicates towards Sita saying that, look, I am married already. And then he points to Lakshmana. He doesn't have a wife here. So you can go to him and asks him if he accepts you. So she goes to Lakshmana and then requests him to accept her. Lakshmana says, look, I am just a servant of Rama. And to be the wife of a servant, it's no good. It doesn't give you any sort of joy or happiness, because your whole duty, your whole life is just going to get spent in the serving. For somebody who really likes that, for Lakshmana, that was the highest joy. But then he says, for you, it would be like, so I'm not a fit person for you. And Rama is my brother, my lord. He can do whatever he wants. So you again go to him. He may still accept you even though he is married. So in that sense, Lakshmana sends her back to Lord Rama. And Lord Rama again tells, look, I have this dharma that I will not take more than one wife. So I cannot marry you. You go to Lakshmana and try to convince him. So like that, they are sort of playing with her, sending from one to another. And then finally she gets really upset. She sees that they are just teasing her, playing with her. And she assumes her original form, which is very huge, very ferocious. And she says, okay, I'll finish this lady, I'll eat up this lady, and then you can marry me. When she has assumed this kind of form and she wants to attack Sita, Rama just indicates to Lakshmana that do something about it. And Lakshmana, what he does, because he didn't want to kill a woman, it is considered against the dharma of great heroes, particularly in those times. So he just cuts the nose and ears of Shurpanakha. And as if he has given challenge to Ravana by this means. So, and that was in a way purpose also of Rama to provoke Ravana, so that he will have the opportunity to fight with them, because Lord Rama did not want to just go and kill somebody like Ravana. So it will give a sort of some excuse. And also Sita had to be protected. So she became so upset, Surpanakha, she started crying and she runs away from there. And Ravana had cousins in the same forest. There were 3 cousins. Their names were Khara and Dushana. And third one is Trishra. So in that sense, they are brothers or cousins of Shurpanakha. And they were the rulers of that forest. So Ravana had given the charge of this Dandaka forest where Rama was living in Panchavati to administer that area. So that's what they were doing. And they did not want anybody to be performing their spiritual practices. So Khara and Dushana, these people and their fellow demons, they will just eat up the human beings, the sages and saints, and create the terror in that area. So, and they were very powerful people. So Shurpanakha went to them and says, what is happening in your kingdom, in your rule? These fellows have come and they cut my nose and ears. And when Khara and Dushana, she provoked them, and they did get provoked. And Khara and Dushana, they had the army of 14,000 demons in that area. So they prepare the army and they go to fight just with Rama and Lakshmana and Sita, 3 people. They knew that they were there, but they prepared the whole army. They went with the whole army. So when Rama sees that whole army is coming to attack, he tells Lakshmana that do one thing. Take Sita in a safe place, go to some cave so that Sita is not affected, and I'll take care of these demons. Lakshmana first wants to say that I will take care of it and you go with Sita, but he understood and he never wanted to cross Lord Rama, so he accepted his order. And Lakshmana takes Sita, goes to a safe place in a cave. And now Lord Rama is alone in this cottage. When Khara and Dushana, they approach Lord Rama and they see, they were also very surprised to look at his beauty. And they said, look, they sent a messenger to him. And they said, look, we don't want to kill you. You just go back from this forest, wherever have you come from. We will, even though you have hurt our sister, we don't want to kill you because you are so handsome, so good looking, so beautiful. Just by looking at you, it's very difficult to hurt you. You just give up your lady which is with you. We'll just keep the lady with us and we'll leave you. So Rama, when he hears that message, he just laughs and he says, we are here to basically take care of people like you. So if you really want to fight, don't send any message. Just come in front of me and show your prowess, fighting prowess. And like that, Rama sends back the messenger. So now Khara and Dushana, they are really provoked. They start attacking Lord Rama. And the great battle ensues. And Lord Rama single-handedly kills the whole army, all 14,000 demons, along with Khara, Dushana and Trishna. So they all are done. In a very short time, it is said in two ghadi, that roughly means 4 hours, or less than actually, more like 48 minutes. So he finishes the whole army along with the rulers. And now after that, Lakshmana brings Sita and all three are happy, Rama, Lakshmana and Sita. And now Shurparkha, the sister of Ravana, when she sees that Rama has killed the whole army along with Khara and Dushana, now she gets really concerned and she runs to Ravana himself. Ravana was the king of Lanka, so now she goes to Ravana himself. And we'll see in our next class what happens after that in the story. So if you have any questions or suggestions or concerns, please feel free to write in the chat window. Or any comments if you just want to write something. So in the coming week, we will not have the classes. So coming Thursday and coming Saturday, we will not have Manas classes. We will resume it after the next week. So in this next week, those 2 classes will not be there. I'll send a message to everybody. So all of you will have the information, and we will resume our classes from week after next. So with this, I'll conclude the class. So there is a question here: why do asuras who get killed by Lord attain moksha? So this is the glory of the Lord, that anybody who sees the Lord or just remembers him at the time of death attains the moksha, attains the liberation. And in this case, asuras, these demons, they not only saw the Lord, they were actually killed by Lord himself. And they had the Lord in his front, not just remembering. So they attained moksha. So Lord is so compassionate that irrespective of what a person has done in his or her life, at the last moment, just a thought of Lord, just remembrance will give that person liberation. That's what in Bhagwan Lord Krishna tells in Gita also. There is another question. Why the sage asked for devotion instead of liberation? So this is the amazing part about devotion. That people, even though people who are realized that joy, that bliss of devotion, many of them, they prefer that instead of liberation. So this is something which only one who experiences can actually tell that alone matters. One who is a devotee, a true devotee never wants liberation. For him, the devotion to the Lord is the source of highest joy, highest bliss. So that's the reason. And that would be the feeling of almost any devotee. Lord can still give liberation out of his compassion without a devotee asking. But some devotees, they specifically ask for that boon. So in that case, Lord grants them that boon. There is another question. What is the metaphorical meaning of demons? Metaphorical meaning of demons is the demonic qualities within us. And right now I am in Temple of Compassion, Texas Ashram, and Guruji is giving darshan and he is writing some messages and he is talking about these divine and devilish qualities in his messages from 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So metaphorically speaking, both divine qualities and demonic qualities are within us. So both Rama and Ravana are within us, and there is a constant struggle going on. When we practice the divine qualities, when we practice the devotion, we strengthen the divine qualities for them to overcome the demonic qualities within us. So that's the metaphorical meaning. So whole Ramcharitmanas, the whole story of Rama, can be explained as metaphorically also. But to the devotees, it just gives the joy to take the story as such, as literally. So most saints and sages generally say that both things are true. The story is literally also true. That means it happened. Lord came as a human being, as well as it is also metaphorically true. So that's what it is. So with this, I'll close the class with the prayers. Thank you for your questions. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyid dukkha bhag bhave. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all.